the show.
Now, Miggs and Swing, life out loud on 102.5 The Bone.
Let's get the show on the road.
Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you.
We met young Ryan Hoppe. Ryan.
Okay, your name?
Ryan Hoppe.
Okay, Ryan Hoppe. Where do you live?
Out tonight.
Ah, so you're from the rich north suburbs.
What's going on, Ryan Hoppe? This is Tony Romo.
Your buddy Ryan Hoppe.
No one knows who Ryan Hoppe is. You never have to worry about offending Ryan Hoppe.
Isn't he like 7 foot tall?
He's 7 foot tall. He's a kid. He's a kid. He's
got good mentors.
and he's motivated. Happy hour. Happy hot topic.
What's going on? This is Hoppe Hour, taking over the Don Miggs Show, a.k.a. Miggs and Swig. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe. Call the show. Talk to me. 727-579-1025 and 1-800-771-1025. You can email me, ryanhopperadio@gmail.com. And if you go to my Twitter, follow me, at Ryan Hoppe Radio. And while you're in the act of following me on Twitter, you can also check out today's poll of the day. And it says here, very simply, after his conviction, will you ever listen to R. Kelly again? And that is a very legitimate thing to ask. I don't know, man. I grew up a huge fan of R. Kelly. So I'm from Chicago and he was from Chicago. I actually remember when like teenage girls would call the local radio shows at night and they'd be like, "The boys are on air, who's this?" And they would take random calls and it would be some like 15-year-old girl like, "I'm on my way to R. Kelly's house." And back then it seemed very cool, like, oh, he's having everybody over. But now when you look back on it, 'cause this is like 02, 01, it's very creepy. And like, you can say what you want about artists like Michael Jackson, if they did it or not, and creeps like Don Henley. But I think what is really bothersome about R. Kelly's music and why it's hard to listen to it afterwards, I mean, this right here, I can hear you screaming more. All his lyrics are so sexual and just like you feel like you have to wash your hands afterwards. And worst part about it is he was into underage girls, so he's writing songs about them. So it kind of ruins the vibe when you hear his music. You're never like, oh yeah, since probably February 2019. I can't think of one person who publicly has said I'm an R. Kelly fan. Everyone's been pretty quiet about it because we all knew, well, not everybody, obviously, but in 2005, the rap community was making fun of R. Kelly. He had that alleged underage tape. And 2005 through 7 culture, if it's South Park, the Boondocks, radio shows, R. Kelly was being made fun of in the mid-2000s. So then everybody kind of forgot about it with our short attention span, and Chris Brown had his thing in 2009. And like, we forgot about how much of a creep he was. But shout out to the Surviving R. Kelly documentary for really bringing light onto him, because I feel like he would have gotten away with it forever. And frankly, I think he thought he was going to get away with it forever. So he's getting 30 years in prison. And I'm just trying to think of how many actual years he'll be spending in prison, because I can't really imagine that it'll be 30. I'd say he'll be out in 15, 18. I want him to serve all 30. But we see what happens when the original elite get into trouble. I mean, they get out early, so that's very annoying. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. there's just no cure for someone like him. You know what I mean? You just want to like grab him and be like, why are you such a creep? But you realize that he's sick in the head. He's not all here. He's a bad person. So it's that same old simple thing. Why can't the world get along? It's the same thing. You're just like, why did R. Kelly have to be such a dirtbag?
R. Kelly has been in jail since 2019, and now he'll add 30 years to his time behind bars. Welcome to Entertainment Tonight.
With some of his victims in court today, the disgraced R&B star's fate was sealed in this high-profile sex trafficking trial.
This is effectively a life sentence for R. Kelly.
This man is a prolific serial predator who utilized his status as a Grammy Award-winning household name to inflict pain and anguish on so many victims.
Yeah. And what I've heard too was that he was very encouraging and almost was grooming in a way. Like there was the Rock and Roll McDonald's in downtown Chicago. I believe they remodeled it or they knocked it down, one of the two. And supposedly there would be like high school, like, you know, when there's like a pep rally and your football team wins. Like back in 2011, when I was a senior, we would go to the local Wendy's on Rand Road in Arlington Heights, Illinois. And if we won or lost, we would go to the pep rally and we would hang out at Wendy's till 11 and then go to a friend's house to allegedly underage drink. Now, what I'm getting at is R. Kelly used to go to those, but he was going to the ones in downtown Chicago and then bringing them back to his mansion. It really is a geniusly creepy plan. And I mean, you just have to be a special person to burn in hell, even though hell's not real, to even think about doing to the girls what he did to the girls. You know what I mean? It's so inhumane because it's easy to forget because you're like, oh my God, he's a good singer or whatever. But he really is no different than any other dirtbag who would commit those crimes. You know what I mean? Like, if he wasn't R. Kelly, we'd be like, burn that guy, burn in hell, give him the death penalty. But there's enough people that are defending him, and it makes sense. You're suppressing it. You don't want to think about it.
When you get convicted of sex trafficking and racketeering, you expect a large prison sentence.
Before sentencing, the court heard impact statements from 7 of Kelly's victims, including Lizette Martinez.
I actually blamed myself for so long for the abuse.
Legal expert Jesse Weber says the victims didn't hold back.
During testimony of one of these survivors, R. Kelly maybe was speaking to his attorney, and she stopped and said, I don't want to interrupt his conversation. Clearly nothing can get in the way of his happiness.
E.T. was there for the major turning points in the case. First, the Gayle King factor.
That Gayle King interview was the lamest thing I ever saw. We all know he was acting. He was going to have to be crazy to get someone to feel bad for him. It obviously didn't work, but Gayle King is just the queen of softball interviews to make people not look so bad.
CBS Morning's co-host spent 80 minutes interviewing R. Kelly and earned praise for keeping her cool.
I thought a couple of times that maybe we're witnessing a breakdown as it's happening.
This is not me. I'm fighting for my life. Y'all killing me with this. I can't help.
Man, they should have replaced Jussie Smollett with him on Empire, because this acting right here, oh, so believable. The way he gets up and yells. It's very similar to Amber Heard when she was crying in court and no tears were seen on her face.
Killing me with this. I can't help.
Robert.
Y'all trying to kill me.
He's such a narcissist and a sociopath, because literally, when the things that he did to women, and I don't want to speak them on air, but we know what he's accused of. When you do that to a victim of whatever gender, they'll live with you for the rest of your life. I've dated people in the past that have had rough upbringings, and you get PTSD, and you get anxiety, and it's harder to have sex because of what happened to you. So your life is literally, I don't want to say ruined, but there's a lot of effects to it. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to live as easy of a life mentally. So you have all these victims of him who were brave, who went on surviving R. Kelly. And then you have this dirtbag just screaming about things. And that's all I'm going to play for his news clip. I don't want to give him the time of day. But I've often wondered, I know the Bone listening audience might not be up to date with everything going on with R. Kelly's music. But there's a song that him and Usher released in 2007. The radio edit would say, "We are messing with the same girl." But obviously, the explicit version doesn't have the word messing. And it's R. Kelly and it's Usher talking about how they have sex with the same girl. And I'm like, man, that sounds very off-putting. I don't like that. Back then, it was cool to sing. You're like, oh, yeah, we're messing with the same girl. And then when you really break it down of what they're singing, you're like, oh, man. 727-579-1025. 1-800-771-1025. So this last court case I talked about being R. Kelly, it's getting a lot of traction on Twitter. After his conviction, will you ever listen to R. Kelly again? And Tampa has spoken. 71.4% said no. 28.6% said yes. So keep the votes coming. I deeply appreciate it. 727-579-1025. All right. From one court case that literally had all the cameras accessible and all the publicity to one that is very secretly quiet. It makes you wonder what's going on.
Maxwell has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for recruiting teenage girls to be sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. The British socialite was also sentenced to 5 years of supervised release when she gets out of prison, also ordered to pay a $750,000 fine. Before she was sentenced, Maxwell addressed the court for the very first time, saying meeting Epstein was the greatest regret of her life.
I can imagine. This is what's very off-putting about that case. Obviously, the crimes they committed and the victims, that's off-putting as hell. But there's one very off-putting thing in this whole case of Maxwell that is not spoken about enough. And it's the fact that there literally is no footage of her really walking from the courtroom. There is no footage of her walking to a car. There's no footage of her talking in court. They specifically wanted no cameras and no filming. And it really makes you wonder. I'm not saying the court case didn't happen, but why is Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, in their case, is all public and you can get every single, second of it? Can you imagine the ratings if they were to have a Maxwell case on CNN? There's just something really creepy, obviously, about her, because I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in an afterlife. I'm not religious, but I do believe she's a demonic, evil person. Right now, it's raining outside of the St. Pete building, and maybe that's God crying. 727-579-1025 and 1-800-771-1025. Now, my girlfriend is a few years younger than me. I try to keep her out of the spotlight. We had a very good vacation this week at Universal in Orlando, at Sapphire Falls. Even though it was just about a day and a half, it was very well needed. And she's teaching me how to be younger. Before I got with her, I was all against TikTok. I was like, oh, TikTok's lame, blah, blah, blah. TikTok's okay. It's just irritating because you'll see one video that's really funny, and it'll be a funny concept, and it gets 700,000 likes, and you're like, that is a solid TikTok. And then you see the same concept done 1,000 times, and just the amount of plagiarism that goes on within TikTok is utterly ridiculous. And this headline here says that TikTok faces alleged privacy concerns. And before I even get into this, I'm going to say the word y'all because I've lived in Florida long enough. Y'all need to relax with this TikTok privacy thing. Do you ever notice that the older people that are like, oh, those Gen Zs and the millennials, when they're on TikTok, they're giving away their information? Do you ever notice that those are the same older people that will take a quiz on Facebook and give up all their info that says which Cheers character are you? It's all going to the same place. And honestly, if you want to see my info, go right ahead. I watch pornography. I listen to old shows of Howard and Opie and Anthony. And I refresh my social media looking for acceptance. If that's the privacy you need to see, man, if anything, you guys would be off-put by how much porn I watch. You know what I mean? Like, that would be all I would have to hide. So you guys can look at everything I want, TikTok.
Tech Bytes privacy concerns for TikTok. A top FCC official is calling on Apple and Google to remove TikTok from their app stores. Commissioner Brendan Carr says there are concerns user data is being accessed in China. Spokespeople for Apple, Google, and TikTok have not commented.
There really is nothing creepier than when you're talking about something and then it shows up on the top of your timeline and you're like, well, I don't know. Because there's really nothing to do. Because I don't even really get algorithms. But it just is very creepy because if you're searching something, like, you know, when you look up something on Amazon, like let's say you're going to buy an Xbox One, and then you get an Amazon ad on, let's say, Facebook or not Twitter, but maybe CNN.com or something, and it'll be like, do you want to buy a remote? You go, okay, that makes sense. It has the algorithm of me on Amazon, and that's an Amazon ad. That's never bothered me. Or if I follow an NBA page and it shows me NBA jerseys for sale by some crappy warehouse, yeah, that doesn't bother me because I look up NBA all day long because I love basketball. What really creeps me out is if, like, I'm talking to my girlfriend and I'm like, hey, we need to get the cats more litter, or we need to get the cats more food. And I didn't type anything. I didn't search anything up, not on my smartphone, not on my iPad, not on my laptop. And then you go to TikTok and it's like cat litter tips. And you're like, man, who's listening?
Snapchat is now offering an optional subscription. So-called power users can pay $3.99 for Snapchat Plus. Added features include the ability to rewatch a story and pin a friend to the top of your chat history as a BFF. And robot...
Well, wait. People are going to pay for Snapchat? I mean, I use Snapchat as a way to text my girlfriend because she has an Android phone and I have an iPhone, so it's not immediate. So we either use Facebook Messenger, and we've sent a snap to each other every day since I first met her. So I like to, every day I set the alarm at 8 a.m. and I wake up and I send her a Snapchat, even though she's laying next to me in bed, because I want to keep how many days it's been up in a row. So right now it's 6:50 and it'll show it to you. That's how many days I've been talking to my girlfriend. And literally, that's all you need Snapchat for, is to send pictures. Like, it's kind of dead, it's kind of not. I hate when people that are uninformed are like, Snapchat's dead. Snapchat's in like a retirement home right now with a lot of money, living the life. Like, it's in like it's like in, let's say, the Villages, or it's in West Palm Beach. Like, it's living a good life, but it's on its downturn. Because by no means is Snapchat dead. It's not doing the best.
Umpires could soon be coming to Major League Baseball. The commissioner says he wants an automated ball strike zone system by 2024. He says one idea is to have robot umpires transmit the call to a human umpire using an earpiece. Now, even in the summer, those computerized umps won't ever overheat. After all, they'll be surrounded by fans.
What do you mean surrounded by fans? This is baseball in 2022. I mean, let's be real here. I tried watching a game 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I was just like, I'm good. The Cubs winning in 2016 was such an amazing moment that I don't think I'll ever get that same dopamine rush. Words cannot explain to you how much that meant to me, even though I've never met them. And a part of you is like, why was I even loyal to this team? Because it took them 108 years to win, and then within 4 years, they get rid of all their players. And it's like, man, what are you doing? Taking a play out of the Rays playbook?
Hoppe Hour.
I mean, let's be real here. I tried watching a game